Mount Etna volcano of Italy acts more as a giant hot spring than a volcano. This is what a volcanologist states. Carmelo Ferlito, volcanologist at Università di Catania in Sicily, suggested in a paper published in the journal Earth Science Reviews that Mount Etna volcano behaves more like a giant hot spring than a volcano. He is not, as some publications suggest, claiming to have found evidence showing that Mount Etna is not a volcano. He just suggests that it has some properties that are different from other volcanoes. Mount Etna is a volcano situated in the northeastern side of the island of Sicily. This is just off the toe of the boot of Italy, and it's the tallest volcano in Europe, and it's famous because it's so active. In addition to spewing tons of lava, it also emits an enormous amount of steam, also sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. It's these other emissions that has Ferlito convinced that there's something different going on with this volcano. He notes that most theories surrounding volcanoes suggest that steam, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and other volcanic gases that are trapped in magma are released into the air as the magma cools after being ejected from the volcano. But he notes no one has been able to explain how so much of the gas can be released from Etna's proportionally small amount of magma release. He points out that for Etna to produce as much water and gas as it does, it would need to produce 10 times as much lava. And this, he says, is because not all of the steam and gases spewed into the air by Etna are released from magma, and instead they reside in underground pockets and pools and are forced to the surface when they become hot. Ferlito also explains concerning a problem. He points out that another theory that suggests steam and gas might be released from magma inside Mount Etna volcano before it can be expelled, causing the magma to fall back into the volcano. He notes that if this were the case, the volcano would inflate like a balloon. He believes that the source of the steam is water pockets beneath or near the volcano, which are then turned to steam and rise to the surface and are released, as happens with hot springs. He cites recent research by others, indicating that there may be much more water in the mantle than has been thought. This is on phys.org. Information from Carmelo Ferlito, Mount Etna Volcano, Italy. Abstract from Earth Science Reviews, 2017. It's usually believed, he says, that volcanoes explicate their actively erupting magma, which contains mostly water, H2O, are dissolved in modest quantities. At Mount Etna, the maximum H2O found in olivine melt inclusions are 3.5 weight per percentage, which could correspond to moles H2O basalt ratio of 0.14. A reappraisal of published data is proposed here, and a comparison is made between the gas flux and the volume of erupted lavas. The results are surprising. The moles H2O basalt ratio is 1.41, which means that Mount Etna erupts 10 times the maximum H2O that could be dissolved in magma, and 40% more moles of gas, that's H2O, CO2, and sulfur, than the moles of basalt. By calculating the molar volume of the basaltic melt components, silicate, tetrahedra, and metallic cations, and of the gas phase at the pressure of 25 MPa, it is possible to envisage the magma with a deep plumbing system has a solution made of 70% continuum gas phase, mostly H2O, water that is, and a supercritical state, and 30% basalt melt components. The transition from this low-density water melt solution to the high-density basalt, usually erupted, occurs in the last 2 kilometers and marks the boundary between a deep and a shallow plumbing system. The depth of this boundary varies with time, being driven by the rate at which the gas escapes to feed the persistent gas plume at the summit craters. The overpressure of the gas phase in the WMS, acting like a piston cylinder, is fundamental in driving the eruption. In this work, the thermal contribution provided by the CMP by the large gas flux has also been considered, proving that it can supply the heat necessary to maintain CMP. The volcano is here considered a dynamic system in which the eruptive activity is ruled by discontinuities in the flux of gas and heat. Negative fluctuations in the gas flux would decrease the heat supply, promote viscosity, and trigger eruptions. Moreover, this view of the volcanic system, subverting the common paradigm in which the gas emitted is associated with an equivalent amount of degassing magma, explains a phenomenon known as the excess degassing problem, which affects volcanoes of basaltic and andesitic nature worldwide. I just wanted to remind you that all these images that I have here are Creative Commons images of, they are all of Mount Etna. Now, Mount Etna on the island of Sicily, volcanic activity first took place around 500,000 years ago, according to Wikipedia. The eruptions occurring under the sea off the ancient coastline of Sicily. About 300,000 years ago, volcanism began occurring to the southwest of the summit. Then activity moved towards the present center 170,000 years ago. Eruptions at this time built up the first major volcanic edifice, forming a stratovolcano in alternating explosive and effusive eruptions, and the growth of the mountain was occasionally interrupted by major eruptions leading to the collapse of the summit to form calderas. From about 35 to 15,000 years ago, Etna experienced some high explosive eruptions, generating large pyroclastic flows, which left extensive ignimbrite deposits. Ash from these eruptions have been found as far away as Rome's border. Thousands of years ago, the eastern flank of the mountain experienced catastrophic collapse, generating an enormous landslide in the event similar to that seen in the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens in the United States. The landslide left a large depression on the side of the volcano known as Valle del Bove, or Valley of the Ox. Research published in 2006 suggested this occurred around 8,000 years ago and caused a huge tsunami which left its mark in several places in eastern Mediterranean. It may have been the reason the settlement of At Lit Yam in Israel, now below sea level by the way, was suddenly abandoned around that time. The steep walls of the valley suffered subsequent collapses on numerous occasions. The strata exposed in the valley walls provide important and easily accessible record of Etna's eruptive history. The most recent collapse event in the summit of Etna is thought to have occurred about just 2,000 years ago, forming what's known as the Piano Caldera. And this caldera has been almost entirely filled by subsequent lava eruptions, but is still visible at a distinct break in the slope of mountain near the base of the present-day summit cone. Mount Etna is moving towards the Mediterranean Sea at the rate of half an inch a year. Now, Mount Etna is considered one of the world's dangerous volcanoes. It's considered a decade volcano, one of the 16 in the world. Well, let's go through them. Mount Mauna Loa is one, Mount Rainier is the other, Colima in Mexico is another, Galeras is another of South America, Santa Maria in Guatemala, Mount Teide, the Teide volcano of the Canary Islands, Mount Etna, Mount Vesuvius, Santorini in Greece, Sakurajima in Japan, Unzen, the Avachinsky in the Kamchatka Peninsula, and Koroyaski in Kamchatka, Mount Merapi, Mount Tal, the Tal supervolcano, and Ulawun. These are 16-decade volcanoes. Now, the recent eruptions, I'm not going to go through the history of them, but in the 20th century, eruptions occurred in 1949, 1971, 1979, 81, 83, from 1991 to 93. In 1971, lava-buried Etna Observatory, built in the 19th century. And from 2002 to 2003, a much larger eruption threw up huge columns of ash that could easily be seen from space and fell as far away as Libya, 370 miles south across the Mediterranean Sea. Seismic activity in this eruption caused the eastern flank of the volcano to slip by more than 6 feet, and many houses in the flanks of the volcano experienced structural damage. So I'll leave a link below for you for the amazing amount of information on Wikipedia if you want to see more about what's going on there. And it's still active today. Volcano's discovery, Mount Etna. Its current status is erupting. It is erupting 4 out of 5. And Mount Etna, as we know, called Monte Bello, Europe's largest, most active volcano. Frequent eruptions accompanied by large lava flows near inhabited areas. Last update, okay, this is old, about a month ago. Eruptions, it has all the eruptions since 1950s, the recent ones. Near continually active, some major historic eruptions occurred 122 BC, and then the other one, 1669 AD, 1787, and this is the position of it right there. Catania, and we have various, look at all these, Stromboli is there, Vesuvius is up here, and the whole thing here is filled with volcanoes. Now, I don't know if they have the same magma system. I don't know about the magma systems under there, but they're so close to each other, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, and the latest earthquakes, March 3rd, 2 magnitude, at a depth of 18.8 kilometers, and the same day, 1.2, at a depth of 5 kilometers, February 18, 1.4, depth of 15.7 kilometers, and so on. So it is erupting, and it's a 4 out of 5. Typical eruption style, effusive lava flows and mildly explosive strombolian. Both summit and frequent flank eruptions, and later seem to be occurring in clusters lasting few to a few tens of years. I'll leave links below for you for this. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.